Welcome to Starlight Talks. This week I am taking over for Chloe because she could not be here. This week Molly is our guest. We will talk about how animals help the lives of those with autism. Please check out the website of OurTism.com to learn more about our support groups, our social group. Read some of the articles we posted for different information and learn more about our Life Map program. We do these talks every week at 7 Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday. So again, this week we're talking about animals and how they help those with autism. So I'll go over to Molly now. Is there any specific topic you wanted to start with?
Not necessarily a specific topic. I have multiple experience, both personally, and I did a senior project on how animals support those with autism. I grew up on a farm, and really the only place that I felt comfortable was being out with my animals and working with them. I was shy when other people were around, and when people came into my rabbit pens, I could talk for hours with people. I did a senior project on animals and how they support those with autism, and really learned that animals emit energy that's helpful to those with autism and with disabilities.
How so? Okay, how so?
When you pet them, it goes through their fur, kind of. Is the best way to explain it. It's an energy in the air that they emit. Dogs can also perform relaxing techniques. For example, when people get anxious, they can use what's called the tapping method. People have learned that dogs can take place of the tapping method by teaching dogs how to give people hugs, or put pressure on their laps to satisfy that same technique.
You want to clarify for anyone who doesn't know what the tapping method is?
To clarify the tapping method, there's different pressure points that you have. You can tap on them, such as there's one in your chest, your temples. Those are the only two I can remember at the moment. And you can just tap there repeatedly until the anxiety or the stress or pressure that you feel goes away. When you have an animal, or whether it be a dog, cat, rabbit, pig, you can have that animal put pressure on your chest, and it will be the same technique as tapping.
Yeah, that's helpful. Do you want to clarify information about like the difference between emotional support animal, service dog, therapy dog?
Yeah. So emotional support animals are animals that strictly for a home environment or for airplane rides, whereas service dogs can go anywhere and help in any type of location. They aren't just for the home environment or plane environment. Their scale is a larger scale of work.
Yeah, where emotional support animals do not have public access without permission granted by the service you're asking for. So the emotional support animal, the only thing they have access to that a pet would not have access to is airplane rides, and they can go in housing where there's no pets. And then a service animal itself has complete public access anywhere.
Anywhere
you would
that
go,
the person with the disability would go.
The animal can go. And there's a few exceptions that would cause health hazards for either people or the animal itself.
Such as an operating room,
kitchens, like at a restaurant. If you work in a kitchen, you can't bring your service dog into the kitchen. And then there, like some parks would be if it would the animals that live there, if they can't have a dog there, there's certain parks that wouldn't be allowed. Other than that, they're pretty much allowed in most places. And then therapy dogs don't have public access without prior permission, and they're brought in service for a group of people or others. So a person would train an animal and bring it to a school
or a hospital
for other people. Okay. So that would be the different types of animals that you have. And then there would be pets, which are just live at home and you do what you want with your pets. Yeah. There's no rules or regulations for a pet. So we want to talk about the different types of that you've had.
So I have had pets, which is what I started out with. That's what most of my rabbits were pets / projects. Say projects because I was a member of 4-H. I've had service dog, and I trained him myself. He has done tremendous work with me. When I bring him into public with me, he acts as doing the tapping method. The only place I don't bring him right now is at work because I work in a kitchen. So when I'm at work, it's a little tougher. When I'm having an anxiety attack, I revert back to using the tapping method and using other methods to calm me down. Whereas when I'm at home or in public, I'm able to bring him with me and pick him up when I'm having anxiety, and he puts pressure on my chest and it immediately calms me down. Before he was a service dog, he was strictly an ESA dog. So he worked in the apartment that I lived in to help him get oriented with what it's like when I have anxiety, and so that way he could pick up cues.
Okay, so what are some personal stories you have where animals have been a comfort?
Some personal stories I have. Living in my old apartment, I was by myself a lot of the time, and I would frequently get anxiety attacks or pace back and forth in my apartment. Uh, Once I got my service dog, that lessened a lot. He started going through training with him, and he started picking up cues of, oh, this is what is going on when she's pacing back and forth, or this is what's going on when she's breathing heavily. And he would came to a point where he picks up the cues before I even notice myself that I'm having an anxiety attack. And he just goes and lays on my chest, and it's calming and relaxing. It's not another thing that animals do with those who are on the spectrum, and is it helps people on the spectrum open up. There's multiple stories I've heard and I've experienced from myself, is when you have a child who on the spectrum who doesn't talk much and you bring a dog around them, they'll open up and talk about the dog to another human.
Yeah, it's very helpful for support and help in opening up situations. It's a nice topic to start with people. People are very comfortable talking about animals. So you lived on a farm. So you're around, would you say more animals than people most of the time?
Yeah. I was around more animals than people
do you
most
think
of the
that's
time.
affected you in any way? Or do you know it has and have a specific, or do you, the answers?
I don't know if it's affected me. I mean, definitely being around animals has affected me. It's made me learn that they are a calming technique for me and for many other people. Don't think it's lessened my ability to talk to people.
No.
If anything, I'd say it has improved it for the better. Like I said, I'd have people come out and see my rabbits, and I could talk for hours about my rabbits or about my pigs with another person.
I find it's very easy to talk stories about animals, and people are very open to it, rather than talking about a friend that neither of you know, but you can say my dog did this, my pig did this, and everyone's willing to listen, and it's a story everyone can contribute to.
Yeah.
I feel like in a way that it's a very easy conversation. Is there a difference with how animals can help with stress versus sadness or loneliness? Is there like difference?
Yes, there is a difference. One of another reasons why I got him was to help with loneliness. When you get lonely, you typically also get sad, and dogs need that care and need exercise, and they need to frequently go out to use the restroom, and they need fed. So when you're feeling lonely and you start feeling sad, a dog can pick up on that, and they can give you cues like, oh, I need to be taken for a walk, and give you the motivation to take them for a walk, because you know that they're sitting there relying on you to take care of them.
Yes, I definitely feel like for some people, I wouldn't say all people, the need to take care of the dog will help you then want to take care of yourself more than just taking care of yourself. That you're like, another animal is relying on me, another life is relying on me. I have to do this. And then they take care of you in return, and it's a nice relationship between you both, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any specifics with how you want to talk about like the specific things you trained Chewy to do?
So I mainly trained him to just, he lays on my chest. He will also give hugs. He may not do it right now. And then he loves giving kisses. Did not train him to give kisses. He just does it out of free will. And all of them are comforting in their own way. They all help in different ways, but also do the same thing to me. He does he lays on my chest as his command. I can either give him a signal to lay on my chest, which that would be starting to tap on my chest, and he'll come up to me and lay on me. If I'm in public, I just pick him up. To give hugs, I just pick him up and he puts one paw on each shoulder and then just leans on me. And then in the process, he just gives me kisses the whole time.
Do you want to share a little bit about your personal diagnosis and the struggles you face and how the dog has helped or the animals have helped with your specific diagnosis traits?
Yeah. So I was actually first diagnosed with with traumatic brain injury at a very young age after I got a concussion. From that, we learned that I was dyslexic, and with a delayed speech, and then kind of overcame the dyslexia with the help of my tutor and just working hard at it. It wasn't until I was a junior in high school that we had learned that I was on the spectrum. And that's when everything kind of clicked in that, when she was little, she would go hang out by herself. She wouldn't hang out with other people. Or when we had parties in our room, I would prefer to go spend time with my rabbits and hang out with the animals than be around people, because I found people very overwhelming and got very anxious in parties, unless I was around my dog at the same time that I was around everyone else at the party.
I know you talked about your little teacup pig before.
Yeah.
Was that like I would call it a very unofficial like emotional support animal, almost the way he seemed to take care of you.
I had for all you viewers who don't know, I had a little teacup pig for a year. His name was Hamlet, and he was originally gotten to be a pet because my parents were moving us off of the farm, and I wanted a connection to the farm, so I begged them to get me a teacup pig. I had to write an essay on it, and then finally got one when they went up with my grandparents for my grandfather's triple bypass heart surgery. came back home and surprised me with a teacup pig, and he kind of did the same stuff that my service dog does right now. In the mornings, he would just lay on my chest, and he would pick up when I was having anxiety. He was a great little pig.
So yes, non-conventional animals can also be a support. So I know Chloe had her pet rats when she was younger, and those were a huge support system for her and they comforted her a lot. And she loved that. And non-conventional animals work too. Some people just say fish work, that just feeding them and watching them give them a comfort.
I would also say that animals, if you're having trouble teaching the child with autism responsibility, animals help hugely with giving them a responsibility. It teaches them not only to take care of themselves, it teaches them that, like, start out with giving them the simple chore of feeding the dog every morning, and have them go off and feed the dog every morning, or make sure that they take the dog for a walk, and start out in small processes or small steps of one chore and then adding in as you go. And it just teaches them a sense of responsibility.
Yeah. I met a girl at a movie theater that had a lizard in her jacket. She said this lizard gave her the courage to leave the house. This is posted by Chloe. That's amazing. I think we can all relate to that in some way. There's something very special about animals. It can give you that feeling.
When I started my job at Disney, I heard multiple stories of service animals, to go off the lizard that had in her jacket. Story I heard was this kid brought his pet turtle into the parks, and he tried to go on Splash Mountain with the turtle, but they wouldn't let him, and then he convinced the cast members that were working that his turtle was a service turtle, and that's why he should go on the ride. So they let him bring his service turtle on Splash Mountain. Do not think that he was wearing a vest.
Oh my goodness.
That's hilarious.
Do you want to introduce your service dog? Is he?
I don't know. He might be asleep.
Get up.
Hold on. Wait, Luke. Come here.
You have to stand frame though, so.
Can you get Luke? Can you sit? You can get up. So here is my service animal, Luke. He's a big guy.
Definitely not pocket sized compared to mine.
Yeah. His pressure is very different from Chewy's pressure. He only puts his head and his front paws on my chest, where Chewy just his complete body can just curl up there. But yeah, he's a good service dog. He comes out with me. He can get into a little bit of trouble
He's
with.
not in frame.
I know.
Can you get
I
him?
can't get him.
Can we? I can't see, so you have to.
Again. Oh, Luke, stay.
Don't want that to close.
There. Yeah.
Yeah.
There. you go. This is
your heads are all cut off though.
I moved it back. This is Luke. So I did not personally train him. We got him from a program called Doggy Do Good. He's about a year and a half old now. Sniffing Chewy. They're good friends. He's known Chewy since Molly got Chewy. So kissing each other. More color. So relate Molly to teach tonight animals and bring them out and people wear over. She had extreme agoraphobia. So Alex says that she would retreat a lot when people were over, but and she would retreat to her animals, and then she would bringing them out to people helped her open up a little bit. So yeah, we did talk about that, how that was helpful. That's all. We haven't gotten any questions yet. I don't know if there's more to share.
So Lillian, how has your life changed though since you got Luke?
I found it easier to do things, to go out. He's definitely a good safety net. If things go wrong, I have him there to take care of me. It's really, really helpful for those scary situations. Now that I'm living on my own, I have him there instead of a teacher or a parent to take care of me when I get stuck. I now have Luke to do those things. So it's made things a lot easier. You started to say that Luke can get in trouble. I meant with space, that sometimes it's hard for him to find space for him. I know, because like in a lot of stores, I think is the best scenario to talk about. Aisles are made for one person. So with a smaller dog like Chewy or Chloe's, Benji, you can walk side by side. But in those
Or
smaller,
you could put the dog in the cart.
Yeah, but for me with Luke, we often have to go one by one, which is then just a little more difficult to get by with such a large dog. But it's not like in trouble. I just meant with space because he's so big. Alex asked how you trained Chewy. Is there a specific method you use?
Yeah. Was there a protocol? How did you find the protocol to do that?
To train Chewy, I reverted back to stuff I learned when I was doing my senior project, which was to be a service dog, not just an ESA dog or a house pet. The dog needs to be able to know their commands and do it at least 90 to 95% of the time.
How did you decide on the commands? Decide on the tasks that was there a website that you went to that lists certain tasks that a dog could perform, that to relieve anxiety or to help you with?
I did not go to any type of website that tells the type of tasks that service dogs perform. However, when doing my senior project, I worked with a total of 3 different service dog companies, and just from looking at that, or from doing that like picked up the different things a dog can learn while going through training to be a service dog. For example, if the person is mobility impaired, service dog companies will teach a dog how to open a refrigerator by tying a rope to the door of the refrigerator and teaching it to pull the door open. And then from there, they grab the item from the refrigerator. Whereas if it's a dog that's more trained for a mental disability, such as anxiety disorder or autism, the dog is then trained a little more with the person's needs, and the dog then has to like be trained to pick up cues that the person gives when they get anxious. I don't know if that makes sense. For me, I knew that from working with the companies, I learned that a good way that service dogs help with individuals with autism is by putting pressure on their chest or putting pressure on their lap. So I had known that from the past and interpreted that into his education. I started out by teaching him the basic sit, stay, and then from that I lured him into learning his command of when I pick up that I'm anxious, tapping on my chest and giving him a treat every time he comes to that command. So basically just treat trained him until he started picking up his commands.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think you have a couple. We can clear.
Have you noticed a difference since you guys got your service dogs? This is from Caroline. Yeah, definitely. There's a difference. It's a nice fallback. It's a support system there. I think it's just nice as well to know that you have someone else to face the world with you. I think that alone is a nice feeling to have, as well as all the tasks that they perform that you are beneficial for what we need in our lives.
Say not only that, but they do give a sense of being able to go out there. There are multiple times I'll go to the movies by myself. Obviously, that's not as fun as going to a movie with a friend, but I mean, bring your service dog to the movie theater and it's just like going with a friend. They give you animals give people courage to go do something. Like the comment about the girl with the lizard. The lizard gave her courage to get out of the house. Chewy gives me courage every day to go out and do stuff. So that way I don't just stay in my bed all day when I don't have work.
How is like different living with the family with animals versus living independently with animals? Well, I feel like on your own you have a lot more responsibility with the animal. Right, you have to wake up to take her out to the bathroom. You have to make sure you're home when you need to come home. You have the food ready. With family, whoever wakes up first takes the animals out to the bathroom. You can rely on someone else to like do a little bit of the leniency, but when it's
When
service animal, you really gotta take care of it yourself for the most part. So it's the only difference is with other dogs, the dog will exercise each other. When you're on your own and only have one dog, you have to exercise the dog yourself. Forward.
Budget. That is
Budget.
definitely another one. Living with a family and a family dog, you could always get your parents' help to buy the dog food. Living on your own, it's buying the dog food yourself, buying all the dog treats yourself. All of it is on you. So it's not only taking care of yourself, buying your own food, it's then all of the needs of the dog are also on you. All of the vet bills then become on you as well, which can be pretty expensive.
Yeah. Okay. Are strangers allowed to pet your service dog? So that would just depend on the dog and the handler's choice. So for me personally, I'm trying to ease him into it. So it depending on the situation, if there's a situation where he's going to be needed immediately, and I know that, I don't allow it because he needs to be 100% focused. If there's another situation where it's not so known that I think it's going to be needed, I allow a little bit just because Luke himself can get distracted by petting. Where other dogs, if they're fine with being pet and the handler's okay with it, then they'll pet in any situation. And then others won't allow it at all. So it's just dependent on the needs of the handler and the wants of the handler and the ability of the dog to focus.
For me, Chewy's still very young and he loves people. When he's out and working, it kind of just depends on what's going on around me, and how busy it is around me. In order for other people to be able to be pet. I don't think that sentence came out right. In order for other people to pet him, it depends on what's going on around me, and is basically the thing.
Yeah. That right now we're working. I think we both are in the stage of working on getting our dogs to not be distracted when they're pet. But right now they
on a whole, though, most service dogs should not be pet.
Yeah, most service dogs should not be pet. You should always ask the handler beforehand. There should not be a will they, won't they. It should be more of a no, they won't unless given permission. Should be the most part, but so it's up to the handler's decision.
Caroline asked if service dogs can go on airplanes. Yes, service dogs can go anywhere the human can go. That includes airplanes.
But these are the ADA, so these are America's laws. So going outside the country, they're allowed on the plane, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily allowed in the country you're going to. So you have to look into that wherever you're flying to. And then there is a protocol to get on the plane. You can't just show up with the dog. There, you have to inform them, and then they'll give you on your ticket that you have a service dog, and you have to go to the vet and make sure that they are
current on their shots
and they have no diseases, and they'll give you a sheet that you will then give whatever airline you're flying. You'll give them that information so that they're cleared to go wherever you're going.
And another distinction between the service dog and emotional support dog, or the
an emotional support.
No, I was gonna is
Has
on the
to get
airplane,
tickets.
right, on the airplane, a service dog, you do not have to pay for a ticket. For the emotional support,
Say that.
yeah, the emotional support dog, or is there another name for it?
It's just an emotional support
Okay.
animal.
So the emotional support animal, you do have to buy it a ticket.
Yeah.
And they limit those. They can limit
Yeah.
how many emotional support animals are on a plane.
Yes. And then therapy dogs are not permitted on planes.
So,
So that's that protocol. Do they lay in the aisle? No, they do not lay in the aisle. They're supposed to stay in your seat, so they lay at your feet. And then if you have a small dog, it can go in your lap. But Luke cannot go in my lap for a long flight, so he's on the floor. It's just about making sure that they don't eat or have water too much where they will go to the bathroom.
I mean, you could always get him his own seat and he could just sit there. He could be special.
But then you have to buy a seat, and that's expensive. But yeah, so it's all about preparing them for the flight so that there is no bathroom for the dog on the plane.
Unless you want to be special and teach them how to use a regular toilet, but then that's extra work and that's on you.
So that's all about preparing and making sure they're ready. You found that people are rude to you when you're inside a restaurant or store with your service dog, and how do you handle that?
Yes, I have experienced this.
I think it depends on. I wouldn't say rude. I would say ignorant of the law.
I have experienced some of this. For example, I went into a restaurant with him not a few days ago, probably a few weeks ago, and these two little kids kept paying attention to him, and they would walk by him on purpose and just start like making little barking sounds at him, which then that distracts him from doing his job. That it doesn't only distract him from doing his job, it distracts me from doing my job. And I just lost my train of thought.
Sorry, you can explain what just happened.
Distracted. They distract you and your dog.
Yeah, basically they just distract me and my dog when they make barking sounds at him. I have also gotten people who will, I've also learned with him, I mean, it's different for everyone with a service dog. With him, if I don't pay attention to them wanting to pet him, they'll start ignoring him like he's not there. Whereas if I pay attention to them wanting to pet him and give attention to him, they will keep on giving him attention and keep on trying to pet him without my permission. Another place I experienced somebody or people being rude to me, recently went to the Orange County Fair and brought him. There were people behind me going through the security at the fair who freaked out on me because I brought him and there were no pets allowed. However, he was in his vest and did inform the security that he was a service dog, or is a service dog. So security was fine with it, and when the other people jumped at me, security helped and stepped in and said that he is allowed to be with me due to the fact that he is a service dog. So those are really the only two major things that I've had happen with him.
I'd say the things that commonly happen, like if you walk by, you get that smoochy sound. Does that happen? That happens all the time. My dog's pretty good at ignoring that now, but when it first happened, he was like, "Ooh, what's that?" But that is pretty annoying. That it's like a come here thing, but you're telling that to a dog that's working, so it's quite annoying and could be potentially dangerous. I don't think people realize that if you distract a service dog when they're supposed to be doing a task, and the handler either gets seriously injured or is emotionally hurt, they can then sue you for distracting their dog. It is then on the person who distracted the dog's fault for what happened. It's not the dog's fault. It's the person who's distracted them's fault. So they can get in huge trouble for doing that. But I'm not sure that everyone's aware of those laws. But it's a dangerous thing. If the person were to have diabetes or have seizures, that could be a very dangerous thing for that person.
Hey, sit. Calm down. Calm down.
Yeah. With skin-on-skin contact being difficult for me, I love that dogs can give me that touch connection that I otherwise wouldn't get. Yeah, so it's very common for those on the spectrum to not like skin-on-skin contact and have issues with touch as a sensory problem. So dogs being different, it tends not to cause that sensory reaction, and you can hug a dog or pet a dog and feel that
same
similar connection that you could get from human touch, and it fills that void that because even though you can't do that all the time, you want that physical touch. You want that feeling of intimacy with other people. That an animal can provide that for you. So I think that's all we have today. It's a big conversation about how animals can support those on the spectrum. Please reach out if
just
you
for
want
those
more
viewers. This is not us telling you that you should go out and buy a dog if you don't have one.
Yes, it's a personal choice, and if it's right for you, it's right for you. If it's not right for you,
It's a big responsibility.
It's a responsibility. Yes. Lillian, silly question. Can you take Luke into the bathroom on the plane? Well, you are allowed to. Luke himself will not fit at all. He won't fit by himself without me in that bathroom. So usually so far I've had someone there and I could just leave him there with someone watching him. But for the most part, he would be allowed to stay in my seat. And he should just stay. If I tell him to stay, he's able to do that. But no, he himself could not fit in there. But if your dog fits, they would be allowed in the bathroom. So that's all. I'm going to say thanks for watching Starlight Talks. This has been Molly, our guest, talking about how animals help with the lives of those on the spectrum. Stay colorful. Goodbye.